Steve Patterson lived in a small two-story house on Maple Street with his 10-year-old son, Aaron. To their neighbors, they seemed like a normal father and son. Steve worked as a mechanic at the local garage, and Aaron was a bright student who loved building model airplanes and reading adventure books. But beneath their quiet life lay a terrible secret that had haunted their home for 5 long years. In the backyard, under the old oak tree where Aaron used to play on his tire swing, lay the remains of Amara Patterson, Steve's second wife. Steve had killed her when Aaron was just 5 years old and buried her there on a cold October night. Since then, the house had never felt quite right. The temperature would drop suddenly in certain rooms. Steve would hear whispers coming from empty hallways late at night. Shadows seemed to move on their own, and sometimes he would catch glimpses of a woman's figure from the corner of his eye. Steve had learned to ignore these signs, telling himself it was just his guilty conscience. But as Aaron grew older and more observant, it became harder to hide the truth. One Thursday evening, Aaron was in his bedroom, working on a history project about ancient Egypt when he felt someone watching him. He looked up from his textbook and froze. A woman stood near his window, her pale face pressed against the glass. Her long black hair hung in tangled strands around her shoulders, and her white nightgown seemed to glow in the moonlight. But it was her eyes that terrified Aaron the most. They were completely black, like empty holes in her face. "Don't be afraid," the woman said, though her lips didn't move. Her voice seemed to come from inside Aaron's head. "I'm your mother." Aaron's pencil fell from his trembling hand. My mother? But Dad told me you died when I was born." The ghostly figure stepped through the window as if it were made of air. Aaron pressed himself against his bedroom door, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst. "That's what he wants you to believe," she said, moving closer. "My name is Amara. I was married to your father. He killed me, Aaron. He murdered me in cold blood and buried me in our backyard like a dead animal." "No," Aaron whispered. "Dad wouldn't do that. He's good to me. He takes care of me." Amara's ghostly form shimmered with anger. "He's a liar and a killer. Do you want to know why he murdered me?" Aaron shook his head, but Amara continued anyway. "Because I discovered his true nature. He's evil, Aaron. He pretended to love me, but when I threatened to leave him, he couldn't let me go, so he strangled me while I slept." Tears started flowing down Aaron's cheeks. Nothing made sense anymore. "I've been trapped here for 5 years, Amara said, her voice growing softer and more persuasive. "Unable to rest, unable to find peace. But now you're old enough to help me get justice. What do you want me to do?" Aaron asked, though he was afraid of the answer. "Kill him," she said simply. "It's the only way I can be free. I would do it myself, but years ago, your father went to an old shaman and got a protection spell. I can't touch him or hurt him directly, but you can." "I can't kill my dad," Aaron cried. "I love him." Amara's expression turned cold. "He killed your mother, Aaron. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" Before Aaron could respond, Amara faded away like morning mist, leaving him alone and confused in his room. Aaron thought about the conversation and didn't want to kill his father, but Amara didn't give up. Every night for the next week, she appeared to Aaron. Sometimes she would be standing at the foot of his bed when he woke up. Other times, she would whisper to him through the bathroom mirror or appear beside him while he was doing homework. Each time, her story became more detailed and more heartbreaking. "He hit me when I disagreed with him," she would say. "He locked me in the basement when I tried to call for help. He told me that if I ever tried to leave, he would make sure no one would ever find my body." Aaron began to have nightmares. He couldn't concentrate at school. His grades started slipping, and his teacher, Mrs. Henderson, called Steve to express concern. "Aaron seems distracted lately," she told Steve over the phone. "He's been falling asleep in class and not turning in his assignments. Is everything okay at home?" "Just going through a rough patch," Steve replied, watching Aaron pick at his dinner without eating. "I'll talk to him." But Aaron wouldn't tell his father what was wrong. How could he explain that his dead mother was visiting him every night, begging him to commit murder? Aaron kept thinking about it. On the 7th night, Amara's patience ran out. "I've been kind to you, Aaron," she said, appearing in his room as a dark shadow with glowing red eyes. "I've explained the truth gently, but you're not listening." The temperature in the room dropped so low that Aaron could see his breath. Frost began forming on his bedroom window. "Your father is a monster," Amara continued, her voice now filled with rage. "He doesn't deserve your love or loyalty. He killed me because I was going to expose his crimes to the police. He's probably planning to kill you too when you get older." "That's not true," Aaron protested, but doubt crept into his voice. "Look at the evidence," Amara hissed. "Have you ever seen pictures of your real mother? Has he ever taken you to visit her grave? Why doesn't he talk about her?" Aaron realized she was right. His father had always been vague about his birth mother, changing the subject whenever Aaron asked questions. "He's been lying to you your whole life," Amara pressed. "The only way to protect yourself and to give me justice is to kill him before he kills you." Overwhelmed by fear, confusion, and a desperate desire to help the woman he believed was his mother, Aaron finally agreed. The next night, Aaron crept downstairs to the kitchen and took the largest knife from the wooden block on the counter. His hands shook as he climbed the stairs back to his father's bedroom. Steve lay on his back, snoring softly. He looked peaceful and harmless in his sleep, not like the monster Amara described. For a moment, Aaron hesitated. Then he remembered Amara's words about justice and protecting himself. With tears streaming down his face, Aaron raised the knife above his head. But just as he was about to bring it down, Steve's eyes snapped open. "Aaron," Steve shouted, grabbing his son's wrists, "what are you doing?" The knife clattered to the floor as Aaron collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to, but she made me. She said you killed her." Steve sat up in bed, his heart racing. "Who made you? Who are you talking about?" "Mom," Aaron cried. "Amara. She's been visiting me every night. She said you murdered her and buried her in the backyard. She said you're going to kill me too." Steve's face went pale. He had hoped that the protective charms he'd gotten from the old Native American shaman would keep Amara's spirit away from Aaron. Apparently, they only protected him. "Son," Steve said gently, pulling Aaron into his arms, "we need to talk." Steve led Aaron downstairs to the living room and made them both hot chocolate. Aaron's with extra marshmallows, just the way he liked it. Then Steve sat down across from his son and took a deep breath. "Aaron, Amara was telling you the truth about one thing. I did kill her, and I did bury her in the backyard." Aaron's eyes widened in shock and fear. "But she lied about everything else," Steve continued quickly. "She wasn't your mother, son. Your real mother was named Jennifer. She died giving birth to you, complications during delivery that the doctors couldn't fix. I loved her more than life itself." Steve got up and pulled a photo album from the bookshelf. He showed Aaron pictures of a beautiful woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. "This is your real mother," Steve said. "You have her eyes and her smile. I married Amara 2 years later because I thought you needed a mother figure. That was my biggest mistake." Aaron studied the photos, seeing the resemblance his father mentioned. "Amara never loved either of us," Steve explained. "She only married me because she thought I had money. When she realized I was just a working-class mechanic, she became bitter and cruel." "But why did you kill her?" Aaron asked. Steve's jaw tightened with the painful memory. "When you were 5 years old, I came home early from work one day and found Amara in your bedroom. She was holding a pillow over your face, trying to smother you while you napped." Aaron gasped. "I stopped her just in time," Steve said. "You were unconscious but still breathing. When I confronted her, she said she was tired of pretending to care about some other woman's brat. She said she had been putting sleeping pills in your milk to make you weaker." Tears filled Steve's eyes as he remembered that horrible day. "That night, I told her I was going to call the police and have her arrested for attempted murder. She laughed and said no one would believe me. Then she pulled a knife from the kitchen drawer and tried to stab me. We fought, and during the struggle, she fell and hit her head on the corner of the coffee table." Steve looked directly into Aaron's eyes. "I could have called an ambulance, but I was terrified that if she survived, she would find a way to hurt you again. So I let her die. Then I buried her in the backyard and told everyone she had left town." Aaron was quiet for a long time, processing everything his father had told him. "She used me," Aaron finally whispered. "She pretended to be my real mom and made me try to hurt you." "She's an angry, evil spirit," Steve said. She's been trapped here because of the violent way she died and her hatred for us. But now that you know the truth, we can set her free and protect ourselves." The next morning, Steve called his shaman friend, Naden, and asked him to visit his house. He had never told Naden the truth, fearing that he might not believe him and could hand him over to the police for murder. So he simply said he needed protection from a ghost, and Naden helped him. But now, with Aaron's life in danger too, Steve had no choice but to tell him everything. He needed to get rid of the evil spirit, no matter what. When Steve told Naden everything, Naden felt sorry for him. "You should have told me the truth before," Naden said. "I'm your friend, Steve. I would have been on your side." "I know, I'm sorry," Steve said. "I should have trusted you and told you earlier." "Okay, what's done is done. Let me help you now." Naden went to the backyard where Amara's body was buried. He lit a couple of candles, performed a ritual, and then told Steve to burn Amara's remains the next day. Steve nodded, and Naden left the house. The next day, Steve and Aaron went to the garden shed and grabbed shovels. They walked to the spot under the old oak tree where Steve had buried Amara 5 years earlier. "Are you sure about this?" Steve asked. "It's going to be difficult to see." Aaron nodded bravely. "She needs to go away forever." They dug for over an hour before their shovels hit something solid. Steve carefully brushed away the dirt, revealing a wooden box he had made to contain Amara's remains. As soon as the box was fully uncovered, the air around them grew cold. Dark clouds gathered overhead, even though the morning had started sunny. "She knows what we're doing," Steve said. They lifted the box out of the ground and opened it. Inside were Amara's bones, still wearing the tattered remains of the nightgown she had died in. Suddenly, Amara's spirit materialized beside them, more solid and terrifying than Aaron had ever seen her. Her face was twisted with rage, and her eyes burned like red coals. "You told him," she shrieked at Steve. "You poisoned his mind against me." "I told him the truth," Steve replied calmly, "something you never did." Amara turned to Aaron, her expression becoming pleading and desperate. "Don't listen to him, my sweet boy. He's lying to save himself. I'm your real mother, I love you." But Aaron could see through her deception now. This wasn't love, it was manipulation. "You're not my mother," Aaron said firmly. "My mother was Jennifer, and she died bringing me into the world. You tried to take me out of it." Amara's face contorted with fury. "If I can't have you, then no one can." She lunged toward Aaron, but as soon as she tried to touch him, her ghostly form passed right through him. The spell that Naden did before guarded Steve and his son. Steve poured gasoline over Amara's bones while she screamed and raged around them, unable to stop what was happening. "This is for trying to hurt my son," Steve said, lighting a match. As the flames consumed Amara's remains, her spirit let out one final ear-piercing scream. The sound echoed across the neighborhood, causing dogs to howl and birds to take flight. Then, suddenly, there was silence. The dark clouds disappeared, and warm sunlight returned to the backyard. The oppressive feeling that had hung over their home for 5 years was finally gone. That evening, Steve and Aaron sat on their front porch, sharing a pizza and watching the sunset. For the first time in years, the house felt like a real home. "Dad?" Aaron said. "I'm sorry, I almost, "You were being manipulated by an evil spirit," Steve replied. "You have nothing to apologize for. I'm proud of you for being strong enough to see through her lies in the end." Aaron leaned against his father's shoulder. "Will you tell me more about my real mom sometime?" "All the time," Steve promised. "She would have loved you so much, Aaron. She would have been so proud of the brave, smart boy you've become." As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, both father and son felt a peace they hadn't experienced in years. The nightmare was over, and they could finally move forward with their lives. The backyard, once a place of secrets and sorrow, was just a backyard again. A place where a boy could play and a father could watch him grow up safely.
If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel for more thrilling tales. I also write novels in different genres, like sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. If you'd like to check them out, click the link in the description below. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more exciting stories.